Overnight military strikes on Iran have devastated the Iranian nuclear program, according to US President Donald Trump, who has warned more attacks would come if Tehran does not seek peace. Israel has praised the US intervention, which the United Nations described as a dangerous escalation of Israel-Iran conflict. After 10 days of both sides trading missiles, last night America's B-2 stealth bombers were used to target 3 major nuclear sites. Iran has accused the US of breaking international law and said there would be everlasting consequences.
An American blast in Isfahan that could reverberate around the world. The US struck 3 nuclear sites in Iran: Natanz and Isfahan, which Israel has been hitting since last week, but also Fordow, a key uranium enrichment facility buried in a mountain. Donald Trump confirmed that B-2 stealth bombers were used to drop GBU-57 bunker buster bombs, the world's largest non-nuclear warheads, on the underground Fordow facility.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
The extent of the damage is unknown, but the UN nuclear watchdog said no increase in radiation levels were reported, as Benjamin Netanyahu heaped praise on Donald Trump.
His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace.
But Iran said the attack had blown up diplomacy and promised everlasting consequences.
It is an outrageous, grave and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law.
Iranian missiles streaked across Israeli skies in response, hitting sites in Haifa, Tel Aviv and Nes Ziona in central Israel, injuring at least 86, but no serious injuries have been reported. US Vice President J.D. Vance claimed America was not at war with Iran, but rather with its nuclear program, though it's unlikely that Iranians and others in the region will see it that way. Fergal Gallagher, RTE News.
Operation Midnight Hammer was a highly classified mission, with Pentagon chiefs saying America's B-2 stealth bombers used in the attack were not picked up by Iran's air defense system. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the strike was not about regime change in Iran.
These images were captured inside the White House Situation Room as thousands of kilometres away, Operation Midnight Hammer got underway. It was a mission later described by the US as extraordinarily successful.
The order we received from our Commander-in-Chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program.
According to the US military, this complex operation involved decoy missions, submarines, 125 US military aircraft, and the so-called bunker buster bomb.
In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the President stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon.
He added that the operation executed its mission undetected.
Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise.
While it is difficult to independently assess claims of destruction, these satellite images appear to show the scale of damage. But the impact extends far further.
This is by far the most potentially destabilising, concerning event since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. We're still, beginning only to understand the regional consequences and the international consequences, because Iran has allies, partners, friends, not least in Beijing and also in Moscow.
Now the world awaits to see the next steps following this extraordinary intervention. Kate Farley, RT News.
Well, our Washington correspondent Sean Whelan joins us now. Sean, the US saying there they don't want regime change in Iran. So where do things go from here then?
That's a good question, Kate. I mean, the US has made its move, and that move was the one that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, wanted them to make. He wanted them to use their specialist bombs, these so-called bunker busters, to attack this deep underground nuclear facility. They've done that. We don't know whether those bombing attacks have been successful. The International Atomic Energy Agency says they don't know if it's been successful or not. They'd need to go back and see for themselves whether that facility has been destroyed or not. Essentially now the next move is all down to the Iranians. They have got a period now in which they have got to decide, do they do what the Americans want them to do, which is to come to the negotiating table, sign an agreement, presumably under IAEA verification, to put an end to their reprocessing or processing of highly enriched uranium, something that is not needed for a civilian nuclear program. If they do that, everything that the US government has said up until now indicates that that will be the end of it, that there won't be any more strikes. However, if the Iranians decide that they can tough this one out, that they can take a continuous pounding from Israel and probably the Americans as well, then Vice President Vance was also indicating that they still do have enough uranium to make around 10 nuclear devices should they put their mind to it. So the question for the Iranians is, do they push ahead and start trying to weaponize something that they weren't in the process of weaponizing? Do they try to hit back at America through their various proxies in the region, no matter how badly damaged they've been by Israel over the past year? Or do they try something else? Really, it's down to the Iranians. And as Vice President Vance said in his interview on American television this morning, we're going to learn a lot in the next 24 hours.
OK, Sean Whelan in Washington, thank you. Well, there's been widespread global reaction to the US strikes. Here, Taoiseach Micheál Martin said it's vital that all actors in the region work to de-escalate the conflict.
Diplomacy and dialogue is ultimately the only way to resolve these issues. Iran should commit not to develop nuclear weapons and disavow its nuclear and uranium enrichment program. Nuclear safety is an issue here. Modern warfare is very destructive. It is civilians who ultimately suffer, and that is why we need an end to these wars.
It is extremely concerning, this escalation, and the impact that it'll have on the wider area as well, and how that conflict will develop over the next few weeks and months. It also has serious echoes of the Iraq War, and I'm really concerned what it's going to mean for our own citizens over there. And of course as well, this can't be used as distraction by Israel in terms of what is happening in Palestine and their continued war crimes in Palestine.
Well, for more, let's talk now to our political correspondent, Paul Cunningham. Paul, appeals there for restraint, and this is something that's been reiterated by others too today.
Yeah, exactly. What the hope is that some form of talks process will be able to deliver peace, but it looks unlikely at the moment. For a start, multilateralism has already taken a kicking over the past few days, in which Israel and now the United States are operating outside of the UN Charter. There were attempts to try and have talks on a nuclear agreement in Geneva on Friday. The Iranians said they wouldn't participate while their country was still being bombed by Israel, and presumably they now view that with America as well. Worrying still, what we're hearing from the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister, who was in touch with the Taoiseach just this afternoon, is that they view Israel and America as aggressors and that they have to pay a price. So the focus seems to be in Iran about retaliation rather than coming to the table. And within the United States, it's highly volatile. Last week, the US administration was saying it was not involved in this at all. A few days later, now we have the United States bombing Iran, and we also have a threat that they'll continue to bomb an open-ended war. So there's a huge flux going on. In Ireland, across the board, people are calling for de-escalation. Also focus on Irish citizens who are in both Iran and in Israel. The Taoiseach Simon Harris has been speaking in the past hour.
Right now there is an evacuation underway of 15 Irish citizens and their dependents, so 15 in total. We've been working closely with EU counterparts in relation to that, and I hope to be in a position to issue further details on that shortly. We're also working with the small number of citizens in Iran who have expressed a wish to be evacuated. So this work is continuing. It's not easy work, as you can imagine.
So hopefully what we'll know, Kate, in the next few hours, that those citizens have got out. I think Israel, pretty clear. Iran, it could take longer.
OK, Paul Cunningham, thank you.